Say that would do this man justice with the words that are about to come out of his mouth. Thank you all so much for coming out. This book is something you're about to hear and won't need me to blather about.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm super excited about this evening. It's been a long time in the making. I have never done anything like this before. So I'm truly excited. We're here to celebrate the release of my book, Along These Trails. But beyond that, we're here to celebrate the trails of art and culture and poetry that has been running in this town, in this valley, in this state for such a very long time. And really tonight is a celebration of, like I said, of my book, but that as well. And all of my friends. So I wanted to make sure that these trails that we're going to talk about tonight are open and they're accessible to everyone here tonight. So I want to go ahead and give yourselves a hand for coming out tonight, for making it out on a Saturday evening for poetry, to come together for something live in Las Vegas, Nevada. So that was my welcome, and I got to begin with some thanks, because, you know, in any endeavor like this, you never do. So let's go ahead and begin to get started, right? My book has a big art to it. It really does. It encompasses so much, and it's so complicated that I had to write a book about it. But the basic essence of it is that the past, present, and future all exist at the same time, right now. That's Einstein's theory of relativity, E equal mc squared. It's the Aboriginal understanding of the world. The Australian Aborigines, they had a quantum understanding of our existence, and it is the essence of what my book is really about. Just that the past, the present, and the future all exist at the same time. Fortunately for me, I had a conductor, I had a person who walked beside me along my trail to my past and my history, who really connected me to who I was, and that was my grandfather. His name was Elvin Wildernaw Fingers, and he was born in 1887. And he lived off and on with my mother and I until I was 16 years old. And I learned the oral history at his knee authentically. I went to school and I heard stories of Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox, and I thought them and John Henry were people that my grandfather knew. I was surprised that we were ever talking about them in school. So this idea of this oral tradition has always been a part of who I am. With that being said, there's a lady here, her name's Ann Harper. We taught together for 10 years in the Clark County School District.
Thank you.
We developed a course called American Studies, and she taught United States history, and I taught American literature. And we took our kids through the curriculum, and wherever she was in history, that's where we were in literature, and vice versa. And we had a fantastic connection for many years. And from working with her, I fell in love with history. I fell in love with the history of our state. So my first poem is really dedicated to this idea of history, this art, the past, the present, and the future existing at the same time. My grandfather, and the work that I've done with our young people in this valley, trying to make a better way for our future. My first poem is entitled, The Ocean of Memory. History is a huge wave that washes over us all, even here in the desert. The past is distant, sometimes, like the heart of the ocean, way out beyond reefs and great rises. Way out, far beyond sight from the shore of the present, we like to think. Even beyond memory, forgetting while remembering, the past still exists. The ocean in tiny shells on the floor of the desert. Just as the crashing waves exist, roll from the heart of the ocean, expresses the hope of the past now. Everything that was is. The law of the web, and he, the witness, the hope who was there with us as we tossed, rolled on to one another, became competitor brothers. Anansi weaved commingled with us as our bloods and blackness congealed together. Fulani, Yoruba, Mandinka, Wolof, Bokongo, Mandi, Dinka, Fang, chained together. Benin, Angola, Mali, Senegal, Ghana, melded in the hull of the crucible. The smoldering pit of hell that survives memory. Blood, mucus, vomit, piss, shit, filth, misery, snot, phlegm, disease. Bodies chained, groaning moans that became songs. Rocking, rolling in unnatural rhythm. Scenes imprinted in our genes still rock us in Holy Ghost spasms in church pews. Adds beats to our beat-bopping, freestyle, floss-walking pimp dip on the avenue. Hitting licks like Wicked Picket in concert halls. Too fast. Rolling atop tobacco wagons, bumping along Beaufort County, North Carolina back roads. Too slow. Reeling to the side, cuffed in the back of a Northtown blue and white, trapped in history. The same unnatural rhythm. Off balance, off kilter, vertigo, feeling like falling forever. Rocking the opposite of the blues. Rolling, creaking ships of memory sailing through the desert. The ocean in a bucket coming to find me. Bubbling, foaming waves of yesteryear return over and over again. No escape. The past pounds. Anansi teaches. Taught us from the heart of the ocean. The heart of the great web that connects us to the past. Across the water. Trails back to lands beyond these shores. Beyond the names of European mapmakers, namers, framers, impalers, branders, rapists, takers, colonizers, enslavers. Anansi's web joins us to the land, to the people we were before, when we were our own, not sold, not lost, not last, not disproportionately represented, not lynched in the gap, not redlined, not frozen out or suspected, suspended or expelled, not ghettotized, not white-splained, not detained, not pop shot by the cops, not denied or fallen behind on rent in another land when we were free. Anansi gave our people words. Taught us stories. Words and stories to survive the memory, to keep the memory alive, to bump back, double tap, change the rhythm of the rock, put it all on the one, name it funk. Beatbox like Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, skills to trick the game. Sometimes simple as how to string those lies to get them draws. Procreate, love a strong new generation into being. Anansi taught us how to get down, jive, shuffle along, think fast, plead one's case, be smart, stay strong. Anansi weaved, old ancestor, shackled, chained to a terrible destiny, a new nation of blackness, a mixing of forgotten tongues, forgotten ways, forgotten religions, forgotten names, forgotten customs, chained, lost, forgotten people, forgetting even as they moved across the ocean. Tricky, sticky, like throwing away a branch of gum tree, stuck to the thumb of history, unwilling to let go. Old ancestor discovered Anansi hidden above his bunk, his tiny web, the universe. Old ancestor, terrified, confused, starving, calling to his God, hearing no replies, seeing no warriors come to slay the ghost, turn the wind, stop the sun, return us, return us, return us, return us home. free. Old ancestor rocked, reeled in the unnatural rhythm of the ship, desperate, saw all he had, a spider, a web, made his magic, shared his portion, shared his grief, his pain, his fear, his sorrow, shared a morsel of his bread with the web. In turn, Anansi shared hope, imagination, comfort, revenge, compassion, a web to spin, memory, words, a connection to who we were. Anansi, old ancestor, crossed the ocean together, survived. The ancestors, Anansi, my people. Jazz, blues, red Kool-Aid and pickles, pig feet, hip-hop, dreadlocks, Rasta splits, afros, black Twitter, candy jams, tap dancing, Lakeisha, Pookie, and Ray Ray, playing the dozens, stomping the yard, straightening combs, James Brown, black and proud, Muhammad Ali, 44. The stylistics, Dr. Shirley Jackson, the touch-tone telephone, Langston Hughes, Gwendolyn Brooks, space shuttle astronaut Mae Jemison, Michael Jordan, the traffic light, Latimer's light bulb, the super soaker, buying bootlegs at the barbershop, fried bologna sandwiches, even gangster rap, all survive. The stories survive. Blackness survive. As Anansi whispered to Malcolm when Malcolm said to the people, by any means necessary. Anansi survives in us, in me. Words, survival. Thank you, everyone. History, y'all. My grandfather taught me to never forget who I am and where I come from, and to never be ashamed of that. There is no shame in my past. There's only strength. My people were survivors. Like all of us here tonight, we survived. The weak folks got killed off a long time ago. If we're sitting here tonight, it's because we're from a long generation of survivors. And we can't have shame and guilt about the past. It's wasted emotions, right? If we learn lessons from the past, and what we should take away is a responsibility to our future. So if my words like stirred something, you felt something, you know, that's okay. It's okay to have feelings, but don't think that I'm ashamed or there's anything to be guilty about my people. My grandfather, my folks, they stood proud and they taught me to do the same. So I was just sharing where we came from. It's the absolute truth. That's how we got here. So the second thing my grandfather taught me was to be a gracious guest. And right now we're standing on Paiute, Wallapai land, Shoshone, and Anansi. These people who lived here before us, this Nevada we talk about, once belonged to other people who spoke other languages, who were killed off. The land was taken from them, and we all benefit from that. And you know, again, I don't feel shame or guilt about that. I just have a responsibility. If that much bloodshed was shed for the creation of this land, then I have a responsibility to make sure we live up to those creeds we wrote in those documents that we teach in school that I believe in, that hopefully we all believe in. So I want to honor those spirits. I have a lot of poetry in the book about Native Americans. I'm not going to directly share any of that, but I'm going to continue to try to show the arc of the book. The first poem of the book was The Ocean of Memory that I just read. We come to this point of this path. And it really sets me in motion for this journey down the trail. And I want to talk about that trail as a metaphor because that trail we all share, right? The past, present, and future existing at the same time. The path trotted it down, we're walking on it. We're on it, we're the present, and hopefully we're preserving it and taking care of it for the future, those who are going to walk this path behind us. So this trail is just it's a big metaphor. And along these trails, I've discovered a lot, right? This path. It was the wind drew me here, whispering. It was the wind. It was the stream rushing, showed me the way. It was the stream. Days, nights, days. The sun was no friend, blistering. Weary makes he the path. The sun was no friend. Raven mocked me, cackling. Go back! Wah! Go back! It was Raven. And Coyote laughed and chased his tail. The circle, you see. The circle. But it was Spider, weaving, who taught me. It was Spider, small web beside the path. Anansi? Is it you? So I'm gonna do one more. Nancy led me here, right, and told me to look around and get familiar with this place, Nevada. Our history, where I stand, this land. I'm not from here, probably like a lot of you. But as the title of my next poem is called Native Tourist, I kind of try to make this my home. Like almost everybody here, I'm from someplace else. A trail of ink across military orders led me to the desert. I wasn't running, but I was walking fast, escaping a former life, my past. Here would be the valley in which I unloaded my full pockets, dumped my garbage, classic Vegas transplants. Eventually, I'd learn, understand the ciphers of the sagebrush. I've wandered in this desert now 35 years, 3 times longer than Elvis. Long enough to remember Eli and Wong's, Alias Smith and Jones, and to have a ticket stub from the Huntridge. If I were a casino, I'd be imploded. Dust from Cafe Espresso Roma, Poetry Alive, the Purple House, confetti in the wind of my collapse. Silver stated. I've lived here twice as long as my hometown, so by proxy of Clark County statutes, I am officially a native tourist. And like almost everybody else here, I am not what I appear. When I leave the city, set my foot upon the desert gravel, I am a Scirocco, loose to roam free. A mighty wind blowing over footpaths, down canyons, in and out of ghost towns. I am a rushing river rapid by kayak down the Colorado. A scout, explorer. I am Nevada. Battle-born, stubborn, independent, free. There's master magic in this desert. There are so many stories along these trails. So the trails in my book are open to everyone here. And the next poet coming up is an old friend of mine, my past. I've been reading with Harry Fagel for over 30 years on mics in this town and in other places, and he's just been my brother in words for so long. It is truly my pleasure to invite to this stage tonight my friend, my partner, Harry Sweet Feet Fagel. Come on, Harry.
It's so good to be beautiful. Because I'm surrounded by beauty. That's why. But wow. Okay. Rodney Lee, put your hands together for this man who is. I gotta move this a little bit because this mic's intimidating me. I'm a little shorter than Rodney. That's better. Can you hear me all the way back? Can you hear my nuance? Okay. I have to say this because Rodney's a teacher for 28 years, whatever it is. It's a long flipping time. I was a cop for 25 years. So you got to look at the cop and the teacher, right? And we're not that much different. I'm going to tell you why. Because both of us are guardians of this community. Both of us care about the youth of this community and want to see them grow up in a place where they're safe and where they can have opportunity. I mean, that's just what it is. So we're a lot more alike than you would think, which is why I love when we do stuff together, because the dichotomy is pure, right? I'm going to do a couple poems. I've got a few minutes up here, about 15 minutes, so I really kind of try to parse it down to some stuff to make you feel something. If you don't feel something, then eat next door and then come back. All right, just kidding. Best job ever. Being a dad is the best job I ever had. No one ever tells you how damn hard it can be. Perhaps if you knew, you'd climb up mountain's crag, join the silent in their eternal monastery. Prepare to worry for the rest of your life. Every day they are people who are way more important than you. If you're doing it at least, half right. We want a better life for our children. It's true. My oldest boy, Sam, is a drag queen. Beautiful and dignified. Some folks with that ain't so keen, they want to vilify. Hard to stand by when someone calls out faggot. You turn to look and it's directed at your child. Takes every ounce of energy not to bust that maggot, break their smirk, and tan that hide. When our leaders besmirch the different, it's even harder to calmly stand by. They destroy that of which they lack coherence. Repression is the beast born from their lies. Just seek redemption in the soul of love. Just accept your fellow human being, lest we lie dying in a pool of crowdlet blood because someone was looking without seeing. I call out to the parents of the children they make. Take stock in your stock and give regardless. Stop fretting and foolish coveting the Lord your soul to take. Stand up in the face of the hateful and heartless. Love your children for who they are, so beautiful and bold. I believe this is a parent's job, you see. Stop being such a judgmental asshole. They need your love to set them free. Yeah. I just want to make sure, because there's nuance, and I just want to make sure you can hear me. I drink a lot of coffee because I'm old and it helps move the mail. This poem's called Caffeine. It's not what you think. It's just a test of words. Words are what we have now, folks. I'm going to digress for one moment. There's a lot of words out there right now. A lot of words that you can choose to listen to or not listen to say or to not say. I'm sure that all of you have experienced interesting dichotomies and polarization with friends that you may have disagreements with about the current state of affairs in the world. And it's all couched in words. We have to keep using our words. We cannot be silent. Caffeine. Acrid, smoky tendrils tantalize the cilia, tinkle my fancy, trip my trigger, percolated in industrial drums, hot and piping, fresh and nasty. Ritual is dark and unyielding, no sweet overtone or milky backwash, just hot black coffee, which I gleefully pour deep in my throat. acid reflux the goal, morning dance of voodoo sacrifice, wakey, wakey, sleepy-eyed doe, prepare for enlightenment. Prepare for the crushing weight of the day ahead, the constant appointment, the grand delay. Such a symbiotic state of affairs, crouched like a stalking spider deep in the caffeine equilibrium. Heart thankful and rhythmically upbeating, listening to the wash of noise, catching scent of sympathetic souls. Where did we live before the bean? I imagine caves filled with rocks and bonfire, and no, progress is the espresso pull. None of the Industrial Revolution, the age of knowledge, the internet, possible without the hot water over legume, swishing through the filter, poured in my cup. Just a couple more, and I have to read one. It's a little dark, and I always mention this every time I read, no matter what anymore. I reach out. You all are people. Some I know, some I don't. Many I don't. I'm going to tell you right now. It's important as you go by your day-to-day travels that if you see somebody, acknowledge their existence. And the reason is that if you can, I mean everybody's busy. But suicide is a real problem. You know, it affects everybody. And if you live past the age of 30, you probably know somebody who's left this world a little too early for our liking, but not knowing most of the time what was that they were suffering, the way they were suffering. So I've had several friends who've committed suicide in my life. One of my best friends several years ago was a fellow artist. He's a great musician, Tommy Marth. And I've written a lot of poems for him, but after that happened, and then another guy that used to work for me ended up committing suicide. It wasn't because he worked for me, I promise. I had already left, and it was an unfortunate situation, but sometimes you don't know that a conversation you have during the day as you go about your daily travels might save the life of a person. So I take time every time to mention this. I know it's a little morbid and hard, but that's the problem, is when things are morbid and hard, people don't want to talk about them because it's uncomfortable. But I'm all about fucking uncomfortable, okay? So a single breath. Time is an engine. It is. Running all the time, revving up and slowing down, always traveling forward. The past is just settling dust. Every decision, moment, fret, factor, clicking the gear, ahead again. The only thing that stops time is a single breath. Taken in that moment when the world hangs on the edge of the precipice, time frozen in that instant as the atmosphere enters your lungs. Just breathe. See? It just stopped time. Breathing in. The sharp intake and whoosh of life. Puffing out the chest, throwing the shoulders back, stopping time. When my friend picked up that gun, the needle was buried. 10,000 RPM, red line, jet-fueled hyperdrive, Mach 2, brain going faster than thought. And if I could time travel back to that singular moment, I would just say, come on, man, breathe. Please. Just breathe. Just take that breath and stop time, because it's the only way I know how. But he didn't stop time. You know the drill. Hammer falls forward, bullet flies forward, body drops forward, time stops with the last breath, and too late, it hangs in the air. Another friend captured by the speeding train of time and suicide. I breathe now. My tears stop halfway down my face. A sob partially blows from my downturned mouth, this moment frozen too like all those breathtaking moments. I am no wizard or miracle man or time shaman. I am just some guy who stands and loses another friend. Wishes are free. I wish that the next person who is light speeding towards oblivion makes the mighty effort, draws their attention skyward for a sunlit moment. Takes that huge, lung-filling breath, stops time for that split second, and just lives, shaken maybe, a little scared at what almost happened, but still alive. more left? All right on time? Rodney, am I right on time? 2 more left? Good. When I retired from the police department in March, I've been there 25 years. I was a captain. It's interesting because I worked downtown for a couple years. I was the admin lieutenant down here, and I also worked down here as a young cop. And it's changed a lot, but it's still it's similar, but it's a lot nicer down here now. And I'm really glad to see that it's gotten so artistic and cool and gentrified. Apparently, okay, that's not necessarily the way you want to go. But ultimately, at the end of the day, people are creating their own culture here in Las Vegas. It's flipping awesome. It's unlike anywhere else on earth. So it's good to be a part of it. So I digress. When I left the department, it's a hard transition going from being a public servant to being a criminal element. And I'm kidding, sort of. It's really hard to leave public service. It's one of the most gratifying things I've ever done in my life. And the transition's been interesting to say the least. And what helps me a lot is writing. And what also helps me is not watching the news. Now I know that sounds weird, but I implore all of you to try it. Try 30 days of not watching the news. Unless your stuff you like that has nothing to do with hard news, go ahead. Stick with the cooking channel or the Scientific American or whatever. And I swear to you, in 30 days when you open it back up, it's the same shit that it was before. My stress level's gone down a lot because I don't watch the news that much. And I had to watch it every day. It was part of my job. I had to read all the newspapers in the land and all that for intelligence purposes. And man, it kills you. It's like poison. But even not reading the news, I pick up on some shit. So this is called Free Human Beings in America. What kind of fuckery is this? Tune in to one news channel so you can keep your mind straight and easy. No puzzles or dreary people who think different than you do to clutter up your tiny brain. Forgotten are the lessons of childhood about being polite and decent and kind. Instead, the smell of fear boils on your upper lip as you regurgitate a narrative your daddy would have whooped you for speaking aloud. The thin veneer of civilization hides what lies beneath. An age-old monster made of greed and need, and with no room for the meek and downtrodden, eyeing the guy in the car next to you with paranoid visage, wondering what his problem is instead of looking into the lurid mirror of your own soul. It's just so much easier to let your betters derail and detail your life for you. Steeped in religion, peppered with racism, it's just so much more comfortable. Especially when you surround yourself with other like-minded folks who bring new levels to this hate that was never imagined before. In the end, we all know it's always the same, right? Great, giant machines come to life. Gears shrieking and grinding, the sound is louder than the righteous man or the screaming angel. In fact, it's louder than great God Almighty. The oven's stoked, the gas is fermented, the American crematorium fires up, and finally the fill-in-the-fucking-blank people will be free of the fill-in-the-fucking-blank people. The circle is more of a roller coaster than a carousel. Up and down instead of round and round, yet still ending up back right where it began. The riders terrified and exhilarated and understated and alive and dead in equal measure. Would you invite a liar into your home? Into your heart? Would you do it willingly? Or would someone have to put a bag of money in your outstretched arms or point a gun made of unequivocal laws at your head? Choose and choose. Choices are all we have. We are, after all, free human beings, so I choose to not accept lies, instead focused on what is apparent and true to mine own eyes. Regardless of the opinion of well-heeled hamsters or television or the groupthink of one-dimensional people, suddenly I fall into an opium dream. I am no longer in or of America. Instead, I am America. Her rocks and trees and the birds and the bees, all the animals and people inside me, clamoring and hammering on the walls of their lives. Voices once raised in unison now falter and crack. The notes discordant and ranked fall around my ears like broken diamonds. The eyes of me see the poison spreading from the eating of hate, vitrolic and dense, pouring from the mouths of leaders and followers alike. I, America, feel a great shudder pass through me, a tsunami of the old ages, huge and terrible and upon us all. The hands of me touch the land and find it hot to the feel. Fevers raising on my smooth palms. Where is the medicine? It might be in the bottom of Pandora's box, but no one knows where she put it. Hope is inside her and lost. So alone in this maelstrom of greed, the scent I have in my noble nose, a stench rising from the smokestacks where human flesh is burned away and becomes snowflakes, landed in my rivers and seas. The winners seem to wear glossy helmets and high boots in one scenario. In another, they're just regular people who have a job and follow orders. The sound in my ancient ears is the crying of slaves and the clang of pickaxes on railways and the beautiful discord of English mixed with every other language on the earth, a song of diversity and strength. This all leaves me, good old America, with a taste in my mouth of copper and ash. Ah, my heart. Where stands the heart of me, America? Bleeding. It's bleeding as if shot. The blood runs down through all my tributaries to collect in pools outside the great war machines. The true monsters are just regular people who have a job to do and follow orders. Agree with the perceived winners, get the coats for the illustrious and rich, park their cars and lick their collective ass. So hard even for America to look inward, see her own flaws. If not challenged now, when? I see the atomic horizon, the great flash, the megaton bomb dropping. I am flattened and cratered in a split second. The sun landing on me but for a kiss, and burning all I have and was and will be, vaporizing in the instant the ideas that truly make me America the beautiful. Because America is beautiful. Yes. Suddenly, I wake. The sound of birds just outside the window. I am not America. No, we are America. We are America. We are America. Dying is one of our possible futures. Living is as well. So right now, look inward. Look deep and see, really see, America the Beautiful is a choice of free human beings and will be until we choose otherwise. Do you let the liar in? Or burn in the great ovens? Or choose another path entirely? Choose, because our republic is like all things, fleeting, fragile, and beautiful.
Yes.
Last one, because I gotta have a little more positive than that. Right now, my balls, I'm almost back to my prepubescent self. I crawled back in my body from the sadness. So I got 3 poems. I'm gonna do one of them, and one of them is called Magic Wand. One of them is called Fuck You, Dr. Phil, and the other one is called what the other one is? Oh, what do I do with it? So which is it gonna be?
Fuck you, Dr. Phil.
Yeah! I haven't done this piece in a long time.
It's a goodie.
It's a goodie. It's a oldie but goodie. All right.
Those drinks are strong up in here, man.
Now,
I want you to know that poem I just did, it may have seemed like I was looking down. I just wrote that today, this morning. So I was, I'm not really good at knowing what's in the words. This I know a little bit better, but hopefully you're a big fan of Dr. Phil, because you'll really enjoy this if you are.
In my new book, Black Code. Where's mine? This is it, Rodney, quick.
It's called FYDP because I'm G-rated. Wherever I look, the flesh beckons. You can't help it. Everywhere, supple breasts meet pouty lips, meet curry derrieres, meet lengthy legs, meet shiny hair, meet pedicured toes and pierced nose. And my God, how does anything ever get done anymore? We point fingers and scoff as we try to hide our burgeoning boners that tent our pants to circus-like proportions. Our penises not ignoring the truth half as much as we do. And skirts get shorter and halters higher and heels taller and surgical enhancements hardier. So when are we going to get honest with the whole sex thing? Fuck you, Dr. Phil! You sit in your righteous chair and spell our needs out for us, and yet not once have I heard you tell the moment when hand-caressing, panty-covered pudendum meets sudden wetness and your cock blocks out the light, the thought, the meaning, and everything is what we were wired to do, which is procreate after all. Without that basic tenet, life on Earth from the human point of view would have ceased long ago. Fuck you, Dr. Phil! With your long aphorisms about healthy sex, no one craves anything healthy. Here they want filthy, Dr. Phil. That's right, P-H-I-L-T-H-Y, filthy. Slick shaved pussies with hot candle wax. Just one drop, not too much to burn. Just a tiny pinhead splashing on the clitoris and wearing leather bondage gear and dressing up as your favorite storybook character and putting painted on faces on the head of your dick and naming it things like Sir Tandy Whacker. And fucking all the time, Dr. Phil. That's right, even when the lights are on. Dildos and dinosaurs, vibrators and Vaseline, anal beads and absinthe. I never cease to be amazed by the sheer amount of it. Whether driving by neon exploded sex shops selling creams and lotions or sitting in the strangely perfumed confines of a strip club while a pretty little meth whore rubs her beautiful snatch on my obvious hard-on, the sex thing never seeming to end. I want it all night. And when I'm done and my lover lays blissfully asleep in a pool of our personal business, I rush into the next room to masturbate. So I continue my addiction unabated. And then there's you, Dr. Phil, sitting so smug and telling us about missionary sex and how to run our relationships right and how to turn our basic selves upside down. And you don't know diddly-boo squat about trust, Dr. Phil. And you forbid fantasy to enter the system, and you talk about physical health and its importance, and even sell those intoxicating diet aids. And yet look at you, Dr. Phil, you're no prize with your fat gut and hair loss. So if you could take a hint, fuck you, Dr. Phil. Maybe I'm too harsh. Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe you aren't so perfect. Come on, Phil. Give it up. Give it up to us, Phil. When the lights go out on the Oprah show, you can't wait to rush home and don your pirate suit while your first mate, a hired Taiwanese ladyboy with a 16-inch strap-on dong secured over his hormone-reduced man stem, rips through your layers of moral truth and finger-wagging and gets right to the truth, doesn't he, Dr. Phil? As you sob in your Sukagawa rice pillow, he's thrust pushing you deeper in the blood-stained mattress. Afterwards, you don't even shower, rushing up to sign your books about pear-shaped bodies versus apple-shaped bodies, the thinly disguised snake oil you sell to the poor misdirected women who flock to buy your deranged mutterings. Hate I don't, Doctor. No, I don't. I merely noticed that your gleaming visage is like every other liar's I've ever known, so fuck you, Dr. Phil.
Ladies and gentlemen, Harry Fagel.
Rodney's the greatest.
My friends are like a Nancy, and they take many shapes, and they have many different voices. Harry, in many ways, reminds me of the trickster. And truly, Anansi is a trickster. I'm gonna come back so we can just kind of be connected to this idea of Anansi before I leave you with the book. How many of us have heard of Anansi before?
Yes.
Okay, very cool. We know he's from the West African tradition, the Aiken tradition, and he's a culture bearer. He is a trickster. He's many things. I'd like to tell us a little bit more about him. The poem is called, what the hell?
What'd you do with that, Mike?
The poem is called The Web in the West. Kwaku Anansi, Anansi. Anansi the weaver, the dancer, the singer, the warrior. Anansi crossed the ocean in us. He is where we are. Sometimes Anansi is a spider, a vision through the web. Sometimes Anansi is a spirit, speaks to us in ether and mystical threads of dreams. And sometimes Anansi is a man, talks, walks, stands with us that we better understand. Consider our plight, ponder our path. The desert too is Anansi, survival in its pure distilled essence. Every moment in the desert, a lesson in life, living, painted against the backdrop of death. Grotesque pulchritude, sublime, fragile. Old Anansi, spider, transformer, father of stories, tellers, teach us to seek truth. Begin the story again here, now. Not in your time, the poet said, weaving. Not in my time, but in the old time, in another place, another web, other trails. To introduce us to other trails, I'd like to bring up my good friend, who I consider the future of poetry. I truly do. He's a brilliant young man. He's one of the best read people that I've ever met. He's an amazing poet. He's going to come up now and he's going to share what he sees down his trails as we all come together to talk about what's going on along these trails. We put our hands together for my friend, James Norman.
Hey guys. Check. Sorry, I'm also doing sound tonight. I'm going to read this first one, and then we're going to adjust again. I'm going to get a feel for the way the mic sounds. I guess this is called The Business. I'm just stalling while I find it. The Business. Do we have any businessmen in the crowd? Woo! I suck at fucking business. I'm a bartender. I listen to businessman's problems. Yes. They don't pay for my health insurance. A man offered to suck my dick for money. It's not the first time I've been made that offer, nor is it the worst thing I've ever done for money. No one has ever died of a dick sucking that wasn't going to die already of natural causes. With most jobs, the body count runs much higher, and more than that, I look pretty good in this shirt. Much better than a kid in a collapsed factory in Bangladesh. I'm just saying, everything has a cost. Remember that the next time you start feeling self-righteous. CEOs suck each other's dicks every day. Only their dicks have somehow receded into binary code that's attached to bank accounts and hedge funds, corporate espionage, shadow markets, and what the fuck is a market if not a closed-door, pay-as-you-go orgy for the terminally entitled and dogmatically malicious? I would suck the dick of art. I would eat the pussy of transcendence. I would lick the anus of any momentary kindness. No charge on that. But the cost of doing business is we wake up after we come to the real world, and it ain't as pretty as its profile pic. I'm going to read something out of a book I'm writing this year. I haven't read it in front of a group, really, other than my little writing group. It means a lot to me. If y'all are back, you don't have to. Like, I'm not a fucking hall monitor or anything. But it'll be easier if I can see your face. If I can see the color of your eyes, we're doing okay. So, this is called Dark Magic. And it's about things that I'm not really sure I understand yet. But we're working on it. And feel free to be close. It's got a quote at the beginning, because that shit's proper. The pious pretense that evil does not exist only makes it vague, enormous, and menacing. Aleister Crowley. 1. What she must have seen was smoke in the mercurial gray slate of my eyes. But what I saw was fear. Felt the weight slung around my neck from behind as I dragged her halfway across the street towards this man who had said something I didn't like that I just couldn't let go of. I turned around and she faced my base metal, impure, heated up to its molten edge, bubbling outside of my control, and she was afraid of me. And she was right to be afraid. Often, I am afraid of myself. 2. I'm a writer, not a priest. My job is not to design the parable that makes us seem righteous, but to tell the truth we might recognize. 95% of this universe does not have the correct properties to interact with light. It's similar with people. They call it dark matter. And as the universe spreads, it's converted to dark energy. It's the raw material that holds our existence together, but we can only tell it's there by measuring its effects. For a while, we lived together in a state of singularity, which is different because the light interacts, it just can't escape. Oddly enough, that's the magic of a void. It's a disappearing act, since time itself stops. And we have forever to consider who we were in our last moments before the event horizon caught a hold of our future and buried us in all the prayers we couldn't project past their collective gravity. But I'm a writer, not a scientist. My job is to preserve, not to understand. 3. All I can remember from that night is the color of my rage, not red shifted or black, but brown, like a soil, buried alive in it, or a scab forming over an infection, half solid, pussing out the same dull refrains that my father taught me in a language abrupt as his flat top. He never hit me, but that one time he choked me against the wall and lectured me about what would happen if I ever hit him back. Later, plenty of others did, and plenty of times I deserved it, though not always. I never hit her, though I think she must have believed I was capable of it once or twice. We become what we are on accident. Control 1 or 2 variables in an equation so long, no human has the vision to see all the way to the end of it. Instead, we try to pass off the crudest parts of ourselves as mystique. We're all hucksters on our best days. On our worst, we just beg. It's possible I never begged enough. I believed our chemistry might protect us from ourselves, but gold is softer even than lead. 4.
What you taught me appeared in code, though I was a brute, with only a hammer to break it. You claimed to love the soft parts, but perhaps also loved the jagged edges of my enthusiasm, which was the element that got me in the most trouble. I believe that I am kind, mostly, until I'm not. But there isn't a single standard I've held myself to I couldn't drink under the table in a couple of hours. There are things I shouted at you that don't feel like thoughts I'm even capable of when I'm sober. Distillation is the point of no return, an anger that will not sublimate. So what if people can't change, and we just grow over the top of our past like a callus? I suspect the slag is what really holds us together, and without it we would just collapse. But could we appreciate the guiding properties of sin without using it to fuel another inquisition? 5. Don't talk to me about divinity. I have been the devil and survived it. I know the going street value of 30 pieces of silver better than anyone. It's enough to rent a U-Haul and drive away from all your problems. We were 2 tumblers clicking in the lock holding Pandora's box, inside of which were the echoes of all our parents' impurities, written out like formulas in the laboratory of some deranged chemist who wanted to turn reality back into a fantasy he could sell at an inflated price. We are searching for the philosopher's stone, though its only value is in sorting those who possess it from those who don't. We are searching for light, but we should learn how to read this darkness as its own Bible, because it is the deepest part of us. And if we can learn to harness it, to accept it, we might actually control our own destiny in a way that makes sense for the world we live in now. I don't want to pretend for idols. I want to strip back the gold and see those I love for flesh, for failure even, if it brings us closer. The savior we need is a con man, a liar who teaches us to harness the truth supporting our lies. The salvation we need is hiding in a mirror that we can't see through without breaking the illusion that we ever really see ourselves. So that last one, there's a section from Rodney's book called The Dark Trail that he's not going to read from tonight. He helped me with that poem. It's like the first person I read it to, and it's based on an idea that's done much better in his book, so please check it out. This last one is about hiking and why they make maps and shit. This is called Don't Listen to Kerouac. Couldn't go any further. Couldn't turn back around either. We moved laterally, kicking in every foothold and then testing with our tiptoes before wagering our weight. It was my fault. My ego sent us up that hill, further and further as it got steeper and steeper. Kerouac had taught me that you can't fall off of a mountain, but I was beginning to doubt the scientific rigor of his experiments. The dirt was loose. Danny was scared, and I'd never seen that before. Walker dropped his bag, and we watched it tumble down the hillside, skipping 3 feet into the air as it cartwheeled ass over tea kettle, and finally dropped into the very pissed off ocean, which had originally deterred us, sent us scrambling up this having a psychotic break. My brain was no longer connected to my limbs, which declined to move, except that I was watching them scurry down the rain ruts, sending caravans of loose gravel ahead like scouts, testing my confidence. Finally, we got down to the beach, but in our panic had left the dog, who was whining against the wind for our guidance. It had been too much to try to carry him, seeing how he was a cool 80 pounds, but he was too spooked to follow our harebrained steps. So Danny moved 100 feet down the beach to restart the ascent because we obviously couldn't leave the dog. It took me a couple minutes before I could talk myself into it. But just as I started up the trail behind him, a piece of rogue scree caught me on the left side of my brow. And that was all the excuse I needed. I was bleeding now pretty good, and how could a second person possibly be? I laid out on the beach, felt the whole sky palpitating above me, so goddamn clear with just a hint of blue, like the way a lemon tinges a glass of ice water. I could hear the waves bickering with the shoreline. Couldn't believe that we hadn't timed the tides right. Couldn't believe that I had convinced us to continue up, that the fear of down had inevitably led to a harsher sentence in the end. So often our mistakes compound in the face of the consequences. We climb higher and higher because the view gets clearer and clearer, but then all we see is how wrong we were in the first place. Would you believe me if I said I write poetry to save lives? I have saved myself on more than a few occasions, rewrote my mistakes, piled up the justifications, but staring in the sky that day, I understood emptiness and the freedom it promises us to be so much greater than language. The dog lived. We all lived. It's a story now. It's a poem because the story has a meaning that I can't quite explain. If I had died, maybe someone cleverer would be telling it better, or maybe no one would tell it at all. Thank you. Stick around. Rodney's a treasure. I'm so happy to be a part of all this.
Thank you very much. James Norman, put our hands together for him, please. My tendency at this point in the evening will be to begin to rush. Because we've been together for a while, but I'm trying to take this attitude, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. People came out tonight because they enjoy poetry. Yeah. And they want me to continue to take my time and to enjoy the words and just read and be here in this moment. Am I right?
Right.
Right, so I'm not gonna rush.
Don't rush.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read this next poem that I very much like to dedicate to my man right here, James, and I also like to very much dedicate it to my man right there, Harry, and I like to dedicate it to the composite of people that it took to really make this poem. It references a time in my life, it seems like another life ago, when that dude back there put me on the game and helped save my life in this city. He knows who I'm talking about, and I know he don't want me to call him out in public. But I used to work not too far from here at this little place called TGI Fridays. And I was a cook. And my future was like one paycheck to the next. And that brother and a whole lot of brothers pulled my coat and taught me a whole bunch about life and living. This poem is called When Carlos Castaneda Was My Neighbor. But it's not about one dude, it's about a whole bunch of dudes. So here we go. Lover hawks in flight, dance. Desert visions guide me. Wolf, the hazel-eyed, long-standing man wore the same shirt every day the 3 years I'd known him. eccentric, mysterious, magical, lived in 7B, 3 doors down, Katie Arms Apartment, South Cambridge Street. Other days, another life when knives were the tools of my trade, slaving that shift of the grave, dark night to sun up, living like a vampire. Wolf poured out 3rd plastic cup of Cuddy Sark, a taste he called it. Lit a smoke off his smoke, buried the smoldering soldier in the overrun tray of the dead. My shift just ended, 6 a.m. Wolf was always awake, guardian the corner of our row, protecting us from evil Vegas spirits, sycophants, crack hoes, mummies, wetted up zombies, Mac cheeseburger pimps. Wolf warded off the hoodoo of the streets, a psychic warrior from his entryway where he parked behind a metal TV tray, overstuffed leaf-patterned chair, his throne where he sat, a royal sentry, a snarled gray cypress planted in his doorway, always, and always had a taste, no matter the time of day. Muddy Waters, his constant road dog, the blues, his personal soundtrack, thumping from a one-speaker boombox. Hair wavy, slick back, gray temples, the cross and Italian bone jangled against a piece of bone on the heavy gold chain around his neck. His voice, rocky but squeaky, tumbled, shook like a rusted cement mixer. He moved his multi-ring fingers, calling spirits, divining the air, slurring incantations over life-stained teeth. He once told me he was Seminole, undefeated, the great tribe. He looked black to me, like my cousin Neff and them, from that side. No matter. There was something about Wolf's eyes, the intensity, the colors, his iris and cornea provinces, the floating disc of Asgard and all 9 worlds. His gaze, a gift from an ancestor, I'm guessing looked even less Seminole than he did. He often seemed to stare, bore deep through my depths, transport me to the axis mundi without a single word, his eyes their own language. Everything you need for the extravagant journey that is your life is in your socks. I kick-started my Honda 250cc, rode out to Apex, smoked cigarettes, walked the desert for 3 hours trying to understand what he meant. The desert and no water can make you see things. Those hawks, entwined in courtship, circled, soared, danced. A transcendent vision of love, elaborate, a mystical soothsaying, an apparition I would not see in my own life for nearly 25 years, but I knew existed somewhere in the desert. I never really acquired a taste for scotch, but Wolf was a good old spirit. He and the desert taught me many lessons of life, love, and survival in those days. I guess I learned everything isn't about anything except what you find, like those hawks and memories of an old friend faded away in the ether, visions in the desert. Because there are many facets in my book. I skipped over something. I skipped over some poems because I was looking at the time and I knew we had to move on. You know, there's a whole section in my book about Nevada history, which is why this picture is here. My mom had this picture in my house my whole life, and I was very fortunate. Again, my grandfather, my mother being who she is. Because see, I don't know if y'all can see, it's a black cowboy. And you know that image of growing up in America, attaching ourselves to that masculine image is so important for us. And as a kid, you know, when you watch movies, you don't ever really see black cowboys and stuff like that. Though we were 25% of all cowboys in this country. You know that fancy riding and stuff they do, wearing their hat to the side, the way they wore their chaps, all that panache stuff, that really came from us, y'all. I really want you to know, you should check out the history, you should check out the historic part of my book, because I really run through and talk about a lot of that. See, when we talk about our identity and who we have to be, I can be whatever I want to be. Because I have an example of history of some people who look just like me doing it before. And that's what we need to make sure we continuously tell everybody. It don't matter what you look like, who you come from, what your culture is supposed to be. Your feet can fit in any shoe you want to put on and walk around in. So, that was going to be the story about Jacob Dotson. I got to tell you who he is. If you don't know who he is, I'm not going to do the poem. But you guys know who Jacob Dotson is? If you were here last time, Jacob Dotson was a dude, he was a scout who came here with John C. Fremont. He was an African-American male, he was 19 years old, he was born free to free parents in Washington, D.C. He came out here and he did 3 expeditions with Fremont. We got a street named after John C. Fremont. There's nothing named after Jacob Dotson in this entire state. So I picked him up as a persona in this book, and I renamed him JD. And we ride together like this black cowboy right here throughout my entire book. And that's really a lot of the purpose of it, just to really show this connection that I have. We belong to this history. Jacob Dotson was here in 1843, the early days of Nevada history. You know, in my book, we also talk about John Howell. Y'all know what John Howell is? So I just want to really talk really quickly about this history. John Howell is the first African-American landowner in Nevada. You guys went to Springs Preserve?
Oh, yes.
Did y'all know that was his house?
No.
See, come on now.
I knew that.
So we got to do better in talking about our history. UNLV is starting to recognize who he is. There's a floor on the 4th floor in the dormitory called John Howell Town. It's an anti-racist floor in the dormitory that's built there in the legacy of the first African-American man who was here in 1875, 35 years before Nevada was a township. See, I talk about it in the fact, y'all know that Nevada became a town, Las Vegas became a town the same day black folks showed up here. It was May 1905. It was right down here, it was right around the corner from here. On Main and Fremont is where they built the dormitories for them to work, the railroad that runs right through, right over there. And this was the black area of town. Y'all didn't know none of this about our history. But it's here for us to discover and find out. And actually, if you pick up my book, you begin to read about some of it right here tonight. I'm going to pass the mic, though. I'm going to pass the mic because I talked about a lot of things in my book. You look at this image, you look at a lot of these pictures, they're very masculine. But I have very much an appreciation for feminine energy and the feminine spirit. My mama was a woman. The most important people in my life were women. To celebrate that energy, I wanted to bring up a very special poet. She was born right here in Las Vegas. She brings the fire every time I've seen this young lady take the mic, and I'm so honored to have her here in my book opening. If we could put our hands together for Jennifer Battista.
Okay. I am so thrilled to be here and to be included in this reading tonight to celebrate Rodney's new book, and what an amazing night it's already been. Not only is Rodney a powerful poet, but he's also an extraordinary photographer and a passionate and effective teacher. I took a workshop of his about a month ago and was just blown away by how much spirit he has for teaching, and grateful to read alongside Norm and Harry tonight. So yeah, I'm going to start off with a newer piece. It's a little bit longer, written recently about my friend Stephanie, who passed away too young and too sudden, but in this piece we were both young and alive. The acid trip. We beat fast Eddie, fool us numb. Relief blurs the boulevard. He takes the hard right at White Cross Drugs to St. Louis Suites, where you forge the lease with a fake ID. You stay in school, even after your parents leave you like a past due bill. You go to work, bake cookies at Mrs. Fields in the Boulevard Mall during the week, stomp on peanut shells Saturdays at Lone Star. We are 16, so we say, this building looks like Melrose Place, aren't we chic? We smoke cigarettes over boiling pots on the stovetop. We say this is how it's done. We eat non-perishable foods, top ramen rectangles as persistent as tangled mangrove roots. We use forks stolen from Del Taco. We wear crop tops stolen from Susie's Deals. We assemble garage sale towel racks and a near family. Corner boys bite their lips under the pulsing red needle of the stratosphere while we spoon Levitt custard past curfew. The pink neon off the showgirl video sign makes me hot like Heather Locklear. You leave an exotic tree frog too close to the bedroom window during your double at the steakhouse. Under the ghetto sun, sticky amphibian melts and evicts onto the four walls of its mock rainforest. After the LSD tab dissolves into catnip on our tongues, we coax out the tender stray inside our mouths. We yowl until the moon explodes, then inch by inch, two paws stretch out. The dumpster tabby moans under the rosemary bush. We bring her into the apartment. Her eye is crusted shut and dripping psychedelic. Her stomach hangs swollen and pissy with kittens. She labors for 6 hours. We hallucinate kittens twirling in the curtains, licking the grimy bathtub, swimming in the orange juice, tumbling in our socks. I roll and chase your tail. We always land on our feet. We purr the midnight hour madness, waiting for the glowing eyes of the heaving womb to propel 5 kittens from her body like wild dice in every corner. The last is trapped in the orb of the amniotic sac, dying under the bed. Your mother never peeled the skin from a grape, never bothered to quarter a single fruit to keep you from choking. We knife out a scream to settle our mother's claw-punched authority. You slip the sack from the baby like cellophane off a new pack of Marlboros. It curls like a wet fig in your hand. Its blind and helpless suckling makes you laugh wickedly, tears clinging to the sides of your eyes before free-falling down your cheeks. The sun comes up shotgun in a hoopty, cruising over the serrated mountains, 2 high beams without a driver. The mother cat turns away from the kitten, rejecting our human scent. We name him Melrose and pass out on the balcony. When we wake, the hinge of our jaws flex at the slightest bell. We lap water to mend the grit on our tongues. We are matted and hungry, pressing our bodies into any moving object, as old as feral strip felines, as young as milk teeth swallowed whole.
Woo!
We're getting lots of tips up here. Okay. This next one, I'm speaking with my 7-year-old daughter. Chasing mediocrity. Last night, when your elementary perfectionism convulsed you to shred bar graphs into a confetti of failure, I laid like a Zen starfish on the floor to keep from hunting solutions, and instead repeated the mantra, erasers are for mistakes. I read an article last week about those ghosts in the nursery, the idea that our children trigger unresolved trauma in us, and we will flail and melt down with them. Starfish have no brains, but hundreds of projections on the underside of their body and 5 arms to freight 3-ring binders and fruit snacks. At bedtime, you ask if we get to take our phones with us to heaven so we can look at the pictures and remember our lives. I think about joysticks and the way we leaned our bodies in tandem with the momentum of the stick to micromanage Atari outcomes and how this took all of the joy out of it. Mornings are cheap syrup and Velcro-laced arguments. We chase mediocrity and clean shirts to detangle as little as possible before the yellow bus comes and huffs accordion attitude to blast us with old school new edition, which loosens my scrunchy mom mouth into a smile. Nostalgia is a curly-Q Conair phone cord I spiral to strangle my unease. I wave to you, and you, just having learned about air quotes, but still too young to understand irony, will air quote anything you can get your hands on. Your tiny, beautiful face twists into a premonition of the next complex multi-celled stage of motherhood, I'm projecting again, to tell me with your little fingers flexing in sync around the words, it's all your fault. The doors press back into the serious business of transportation, and you sail away. There is just enough cool it now lingering for us to make it another day. I actually found out from Rodney the first time I met him that he taught at my high school the year after I left, which sort of filled me with that familiar woozy sensation of time being more circular. And so this is kind of what I was speaking to with this poem. Continuum, Vegas 91. Under the eaves of the 7-Eleven, whole galaxies are forming. Exodus and Doc Martens arrive, cloaked in hazy Pink Floyd replicated armor, indigo hair sprayed in the alley minutes before. Suicide Slurpees are straw-sucked at the speed of light. kaleidoscoping comets into throats full of futures that will not come. Girls with inky eyes take big gulps of adolescence as if it were bottomless. Mothers with cracked faces slip coins into video poker window seats, while toddlers wait with full diapers and dirty feet. We don't know anything yet. How most of us will not make it further than the distance of the day's supply, our bodies celestial after 2 bong hits and a hot dog. We are still there, orbiting convenience like breakfast links on a turnstile grill, still shoplifting diet pills and zigzags, paralleled with our now existence. Sometimes a glimpsed bifold flashes back our reflection, prism in an open door, the sun slingshot into a fissure in the fabric of time. Bent just so, the way the decade goes down like instant coffee. For a moment we meet our juvenile selves, our potential still shelved like motor oil and no-dos, the continuum assembled later, after the blue blaze quasar devours our young lives. So recently I've been writing a series of poems about a series of explosions that happened in May of 1988 at a chemical plant called Pepcon. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
I was there. Not at Pepcon, but just outside.
Awesome. So I lived about just a few miles away, and I was 11. So in some of the poems I'm personifying the chemical, and so in this short one I'm exploring that. And the title comes from 2 years worth of court battles arguing over liability and how dangerous the chemical was. The chemical was a rocket booster oxidizer. Unstable, highly flammable. For attention, I used to extinguish matches into a puddle on my tongue. Cartoon smoke clouds trailed off bar stools as I ignited like a pinball to damsel in distress the jukebox, shoot shitty pull, my strike anywhere legs draping a side pocket, bent over the same green felt that dresses the casinos and razzle-dazzle. While waiting for taxis, I flicked cigarettes into sagebrush, taunting the next blast, expecting to see my dad pull up in the Impala, his smoky gray suit still pressed from the morning's hot iron. I'd wonder how much displaced glass still screams in the desert. In the morning, I'll be chemical fallout, a crater 15 feet deep, 200 feet wide, but tonight my body is a welding torch and you have nowhere to go. Fremont is dripping in gelatin and streetwalkers. My mouth tastes like a white-orange fireball. Someday they'll turn me into the Valley Auto Mall, but tonight I am Shockwave. I crack your glasses with my smile, part your hair with my eyes. This next one is called The Bluff. Knowing when to leave is a sudden aneurysm. We thought our mother was having one once when she used the word apartment, a word uncharted, wild thief of her shrinking mouth. Just after sunset, she trembled a suitcase and drove away. I toggled Walkman in the back, my sister's disbelief weighty in the passenger. At the corner where my bus stop backed up to a bar, her loose wrist tightened and she buckled, rewinded the key from the obeying notch. Leaving turned out to be a false alarm. She realized she'd only folded a green belt into her Samsonite and nothing else. She wept over the open casket of her leaving, like it was a thing she loved but could not keep alive. Then married the reckless teeth into zipper and drove us home, while I was just beginning to imagine the first thrills of having a numbered door, shared walls, the new way we'd keep our voices down. Let's do a couple more. So this one's a little bit different. It's a prose poem that was inspired by an article about the owner of the Heart Attack Grill restaurant downtown. So apparently he wants to open a second location, and he wants to combine drive-through food with drive-in indie sci-fi movies. And the most fascinating part of the article was that he wants all the employees and customers to wear tinfoil hats to protect from unauthorized government cerebral scanning. So it got me thinking about gimmicks and how absurd they can be. Broken heart attack drive-through grill. Inside, the man with the tinfoil hat flips pity patties. His narcissistic gait greases the floor into a shiny infatuation. Outside, townspeople wait in their cars to speak their confessions into a little white speaker box. A red banner whips in the wind, distorting the letters so that it reads, "Broken Art Attack Grill." Girls on pogo sticks stack paper-wrapped, beyond sincere apologies, dolloped with mustard mustaches under a heat lamp to keep them warm. Expectations are hand-formed and blown out of proportion to the faded picture on the menu, but lots of folks still order it, which leaves plenty of room for the original recipe, resentment on the bone, marinated in our signature gaslighting glaze. Now that's finger-licking fabrication, if you ask me. Bring the kids. Our outdoor refurbished bouncy knee is an exact replica of your grandpa's jerky meniscus antique horsey. We are committed to offering fresh validation in the kids' meals, but you may still discover indentations in the shape of a pickle nickel where the manipulation was removed. Tuesdays are half-off second chances, twice-baked humiliation, and our butter-crusted epic waste of time. We cannot accept bills larger than $20. Sorry for the inconvenience. Counterfeit smiles will also be turned away without explanation. We reserve the right to refuse any walk of shame, but it's unlikely we can resist it, so inquire within. We cater all events, family reunions, block parties, divorce proceedings, even funerals, but keep in mind that graveyards do not have a curfew, and our hours are shorter in leap years, during an eclipse, and while estranged lovers are taking some space. I'm going to end with this poem from my book, Echo Bay, and this is a real honor to be here and to be a part of this night. Thank you again, Rodney. It means the world to me, and this is about where I grew up, and I spent a lot of time undervaluing where I came from. And I think that when we tell our stories and own our stories, that the rewards are beyond measure. Off Boulder Highway. The hose water stung young lips, a hot plastic surge into our mouths. Later, we'd take heavy swallows off a 40-ounce the same way, until there was no space left to take in air. The electric boxes were brownstone stoops, only with reproductive repercussions. What did we know? Our asses burning each night on the green altar of our adolescence. If the Cuban boys liked you, they'd feed you fatty pork ribs you'd eat with both hands, scoop bathtub jungle juice into red Solo cups 2 at a time. They'd tag your name in block letters on block walls with flames rising off the top, like the force that could take you out of the neighborhood. The nearby power plant umbrellaed us, a galvanic nanny, zipping, cracking, and humming an electric lullaby. But the houses were no bigger than a tight fist, ceilings low enough to catch flung whiskey, leaving a stain, an ink blot I'd confused with love. My sister was the queen of the radio station, requested Def Leppard all summer long, while tanning on the front lawn in chairs that opened like love notes slipped in lockers. Hysteria like a compass bearing east side our true north. We'd circle the same zip code like chained dogs, get 86 from Nevada Palace just to get our Polaroid on the casino wall, cross streets that crossed our names off every list, our roots growing like ash cylinders on GPC cigarettes. At Christmas we'd hang tinsel on real trees, bought from the carnies and desert lots, tobacco dip fringing their grainy tongues. They'd give discounts on the ones with dead patches. At night, we'd build fires at Frenchman's Mountain, French kiss until we could no longer remember our address. We'd look down on the city, the strip a line I'd snort up my nose for a decade straight. When we ran out of pot, we'd hyperventilate on purpose, then press palms on each other's ribs, until the black gauze wrapped us in absolute quiet, until there was no space left to take in air. The slump, then seize, a proof of our residence inside our own bodies. Thank you so much.
Oh, we're almost there. We're at that moment that I regretted when this night would end. I see Heather showed up. That's Heather Lancasera. She's our current poet laureate. And she's also the editor of my book. I just want everybody to know that. She was very instrumental in spending time with me and having conversations and dialogues about how I put this whole thing together. This next poem is to that lovely lady sitting at that table back there, to my wife. It's called For Sisters Carrying Home Bags of Groceries on Hot Summer Days. Actually, it's to all you women in the spirit of femininity. and everything this poem is going to say about you, all right? Queen, mother, sister, daughter, woman, the essence of creation, the embodied life force, balance of the universe, glittering pumice of molten stars. Flaunt your beauty, sisters, that the world should know. Walk, woman, soft wind, water, whitest of light, darkest of night, the very eye of beauty. Free, mother proud, elegant, self-sufficient, choosing, surviving, tough and loud. Woman herself. Slim or curvaceous, pleasant or pugnacious, just woman, just earth and air and love and fire, all that we have come from and all that we desire. Woman, walk, woman, walk. Head up, proud back, walking, strolling, sister, smooth. Walk, woman, walk. Walk through Eden. Walk the river, then you walk the dawn. Walk the line of time. Strut, gone with your bad self. Walk from the grassy savannah all the way to Lake Mead and Las Vegas Boulevard. Head cocked, bad. Walked carrying her babies. Walked with hurting feet. Yet walked like nothing felt pain. Walked carrying woe, suffering, the baggage of men. Walk, woman, walk. Walk through the complex carrying an armload of groceries and walk straight through my heart. Queen, mother, sister, daughter, limitless inspiration, feminine divinity, wisdom, balance of my life. Walk, woman, that the world should know your beauty.
Yes.
All right. So my poem talks about a lot of things. It talks about a lot of history. It goes over a lot of art, but it also gets very personal. This next poem is called Full Pockets.
Oh, I was just coming up to ask you to do that.
This next poem is called
It
Full
wasn't on the list, man.
Pockets. And I'd like to share it with you right now because James wanted me to. I carried all kinds of man stuff in my pockets as a boy. I had a pocket knife in my pocket. I had marbles, Indian head nickels, a Beatles iridescent green wings, security, games, items of exchange, dissected parts in my pockets. I had shame in my pockets. 1967, Expo Montreal, 5 years old. The slick grease, smell of coochie smeared across my face. Taste that lingered 50-some years. I had keys in my pockets as a boy. Keys that opened empty apartments. Silence in my pockets. Lonely isolation, hours of solitude, a wilderness of imagination. All kinds of calamity in my pockets as a boy. I had a Gigantosaurus in my pocket. Had a blue whale that swallowed a lion marionette that wanted to be a boy. I had Apollo 16 in my pocket. Black astronaut dreams of a nigga going where no nigga had ever gone before. Impossibilities, silly stringed together with a snot rag of shallow self-image. Fear of failure, underdevelopment, discouragement. Needless to say, Icarus never took flight. Never found that Kennedy $50 misplaced behind the deck of cards in my pocket. I had beatings in my pocket. Bare booty, naked clothesline tied to the furnace, extension cord beatings. Beat you until she's tired. Rest, rebuke, preach, then beat you some more kind of beatings in my pockets. I had a 1968 Pontiac muscle car in my pocket. I had Jet magazine centerfolds in my pocket. Newport Lucy's, Ricochet Rabbit, Magilla Gorilla, had nickel bags in my pocket. Had $1 beers from the blind bootlegger who didn't take change in my pocket. Mickey's Big Mouth and Richard's Wild Irish Rose. A whole lot of stupid regrets. Vomit in my pockets. I had a secret pocket inside my coat where I stashed a World War II photograph of a man who did not give a damn about me. Abandonment in my pocket. Wadded up with scraps of I don't give a fuck. A feeling of loss constantly falling through that hole in my pocket. In my pocket, I had a piece of string and a noose and a knot for my spinning top. Tied up memories of blowjobs, dry humps, other guilts I put in my pocket to forget. I had red licorice and gonorrhea in my pocket as a boy. Had crabs in my pocket. Itchy souvenirs of warped pride. I had blue Legos in my pocket to build boyhood fantasies like being good, doing the right things, perfect grades, being accepted, 32 flavors of bullshit, trash gathered like tumbleweeds in the corners of my pockets. I had trains in my pocket as a boy. I had girls in my pocket. Had trains on girls in my pocket until the train wreck in my pocket opened the door, set her free from my pocket just in time. I had a giant jawbreaker in my pocket, saved for later, stuck to the abortion in my pocket. Pink, foamy, slow dissolving remorse, cracked tooth, red mouth slobbering a sugary slime trail that leads here instead of back there. Cheap wine, weed gathered at the flagpole in front of corner stores, subsidized hopes, dreams, first of the month government pocket lit beneath my nails from digging too deep in my pockets. So many pieces of me in my pockets as a boy. I had a gang of close calls and almost in my pockets. 2 prongs of the slingshot damn near. Busting out windows with rocks of anger in my pocket. Throwing apples at cars, running down alleys behind the toxic fog of mosquito trucks. Sticky summer nights, nappy-headed, bored, restless, musty, itching for adventure. Status, always searching, hands in my pocket. I have fairy tales in my pockets. Skyscrapers struck by airplanes disintegrating in my pockets. Dust spilling over, cascading down my leg, gathering in my cuffs. All kinds of unbelievable shit in all our pockets. The lies and myths that create our truths. Long lines of people removing their shoes, pouring out water in my pockets. All these years later, afraid of what we'll find if we question the fears in our pockets. I carry all kinds of man stuff. I have miniature toys of memories. Fragments, compartmentalized wreckages, mosaic together, a portrait of me and all that I deny, hidden in my pockets. I'm gonna close out with the poem that gave the title to my book. Again, I was questioning quantum understanding of our existence, about how that past, present, and future exist at the same time. And I wrote this poem along these trails while I was out riding my bike early one morning. I stand in the saddle to face another day. Desert morning rolling out with a momentary cool, the pre-dawn mist along these trails. Las Vegas wash trails, short and long trails, cared for, smooth, rough, neglected trails, asphalt and dirt, city trails, wash trails, running, walking, bike trails, urban, inner city, suburban, rural, equestrian, backcountry, county trails. The paradox connected, a system, veins wrapped round capillaries along main arteries, roadways, trails, history cross-section with the old Spanish trail, causeways of a storied past, horse-trodden trails of exploration, conquest, discovering lived-in spaces, renaming the name, laying claim to these trails right down on Charleston Boulevard, over across Pecos, straight out beyond the 15, up to Jean, the whole valley, rocky foot trails before, Pristine, clean before, metals before this place. Las Vegas, crystal rivulets of life before, names we know and languages we speak. Before, now, forever. The first people's trail. Native, we say, yet their stories told of the people before. Those who came before time and stars. Before them, the people, the elders who spoke the first words. Through us, tomorrow, those who will speak the last. All nations here together. Flesh and spirit, walking, honey, marching, riding, striving, loving, living, dying. Men and women, ghosts along these trails, walk across time together in quantum steps. Past, present, future, E equal MC squared. In reality, all generations through, into, over, between, together, right now, forever and always was. Even way, way back. Frightened, lost along these trails, terrified, without fire. Before living memory, the teachings of Anansi, beyond that darkness. This was Coyote's trail. And bobcats, and hawk, the heron's trail, and the ground squirrel, the mastodon, and megalith giant sloth, ichthyosaur's lakes, mountains prowling with Similodian Philadius, saber-toothed cats. These trails along springs and streams, trees and oases, mirages and dreams, trails where I ride my bike, out beyond Summerlin, north of North Vegas, all the way through Northtown, the west side, going backwards in a forward progression of time, railroad builders' trails, miners' trails, prospectors' trails, black explorers, pioneers, dreamers, trails cross Cary, the east side, Sunrise Manor, trails of soldiers going to war, gamblers' trails, women's trails, and ranchers and former sharecroppers' trails. Gangsters hit the mattresses on these trails. Charleston Heights, Winterwood, the Wash, trails leading southeast, back out across the wetlands, back through Telegraph Road, Papco, Rainbow Gardens, Desert and Bridges, up over, then under the underpass, past Lake Mead Drive, up Three Sisters, the toes of Rivers Mountains, past Railroad Pass, through Boulder, more village than city, up to St. Jude's, then descending to Lake Mead. These trails tell the story of our region in varied voices. Different voices, the same. Human, straight through the heart of our valley. Trails. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rodney J. Lee. My friends, Harry Fagel, James Norman, Jennifer Battista, and all of you, thank you for traveling these trails with us. This is just the beginning. I hope to see you around. Thank you.
Hey, Jennifer.
Can I have